Right. So good evening, everybody. And thank you very much for joining us from all over the United States and Europe and so many places. We're really happy you took the time to be with us tonight. My name is Tamara Lev, and I am from SPNI. I'm the Climate Policy Director of the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel. And I'm very honored to have here tonight Mr. Gideon Behar, who is a very well-established Israeli ambassador and a special envoy for climate change and sustainability for the last 5.5 years. Gideon is actually the first one who basically founded this position and had been doing incredible work in leading the climate diplomacy for the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he was the head of the delegation of the United Nations Conference of the Parties, the COPs, and very important partner and ally of the environmental and nature lovers in Israel. So thank you very much, Gideon, for joining us this evening. What we're going to do is we're going to have an interview kind of discussion in which Gideon will do most of the talking. And then the end, we'll have like 15, 20 minutes for your questions. So it'd be great if you kind of, when we get to the last part, send us your question on the chat. And yes, I see people that are joining us now from all kind of places, from Florida, Vancouver, also from Odin. Okay, that's nice. Okay, so we will start. So good evening, and I'm especially happy tonight to have this conversation because soon you're going to head for your next position, and it feels like a great time to ask you to kind of reflect on the last 5 years in Israeli climate change kind of arena and as a climate change ambassador. Um, what has been like your understanding in the field from the place where it all started 5 years ago and where it stands now?
So I think that we have done quite a long way in the last couple of years regarding preparation for the eventualities of climate change in Israel, but also have upgraded our international participations in conferences, in events that are related to climate change. I think that I can divide my work in the last years to a few divisions. One very important was the internal work in Israel. I saw myself not only as an ambassador for Israel in the international arena, but maybe first of all and foremost, ambassador of climate change for the public in Israel, for the government, for the local governance, for the academia, civil society, the private sector, and more. And a large part of my work was dedicated to creating a change and a shift inside Israel and bringing to the awareness of decision makers, of different stakeholders in Israel, what climate change actually means for Israel. Let me illustrate that in one example. One of the most significant repercussions of the climate crisis is sea level rise. Now, sea level rise has been accelerating in the last decades, and today we are talking about sea level rise of half a centimeter per year, or approximately 5 millimeters per year, and this is accelerating. A decade ago, it was something like 3 millimeters. 2 decades ago, it was 2.2 millimeters. We are anticipating sea level rise of approximately 1 meter by mid-century and close to 2 meters, between 1 to 2 meters by the end of this century. So sea level rise is extremely important, and the awareness in Israel for that was not very solid. And I saw for myself a submission to bring it to the awareness of different departments responsible for planning, for the construction along the coast, etc., for municipalities, and to let them know that there is a problem here and that we must update our plans. I mean, we cannot, for instance, authorize any more construction on the first line of a shore, while we know that within 50 to 60, 70 years from now, it will be flooded by water. And this was taken into consideration. Another element that I was deeply involved was the issue of heat waves. These are prolonged periods of between few days to few weeks of extremely high temperatures. And heat waves are very dangerous, very, very dangerous. They can make a country, a state stand still, if the electricity falls down, if the traffic is paralyzed, etc. So we have started to take measures in Israel to prepare ourselves for the issue of heat waves, and we already see them and their effects today. To tell you that we have covered everything and every aspect of the climate crisis, no, we are far, far, far beyond from what is needed and what has to be done to be prepared. And in that regard, I want to say something which is, I think, very important. I think one can never be ready 100% for the climate crisis because this crisis is evolving. It keeps changing, and there are lots of events. There are lots of things happening that we didn't anticipate before, like the issue of the fires in that powerness that they came. Or there is another issue today which is not discussed enough, at least in the government or the media, which is sandstorms and dust storms. This is a huge threat for the health of people here, for the country to perform as a whole. We see sandstorms, for instance, in Iraq that occur almost daily. And the strong ones, they stop the traffic, they stop air traffic, they send thousands of people to hospitals. So there is much more that has to be done and to prepare in Israel. So this was only one circle. Another area of activity was regional activity. We were working and have been working, still working on the creation of regional cooperation on climate issues, Israel and its neighbors, Arab neighbors, but not necessarily Arabs. It can be also Mediterranean partners like Cyprus, Greece, Malta, and others. And again, one of the issues that I was dealing with, or still dealing with in the last 2 years, is a preparedness plan for sea level rise in the whole of the Mediterranean. The idea is to create a plan for all the countries of the region in the Mediterranean Sea that will cooperate and will learn from one another how to cope with sea level rise. Another circle was international cooperation, either a bilateral one, Israel with Kenya, Israel with Nepal, countries like that, but also in international events. We have participated in climate conferences in the Middle East, in Dubai several times, in Cyprus. I have led the Israeli delegation several times to the meeting of the COPs, where we, in the last 3 years, have established an Israeli pavilion that focused on solutions, on practical solutions that come from the development of technologies and innovation in Israel. And if you want, Tamara, we can elaborate on that as well.
Hey, yes, I hope we will get there. But as you were saying, we could hear from what you said, how Israel is indeed suffering from the climate crisis, climate change, and Israel is indeed a hotspot in that aspect. As you said, the sea level rise is faster and more extreme than in other countries. The heat waves, the storm, the sandstorm that you mentioned, which we just felt a couple of weeks ago, and some of them, as you say, we could not predict. Some are predicted, like the fires and the flooding, some of them. And I wonder if you could, looking at that, could you kind of spot some moments or achievements or things that you could say here Israeli made some success, Israel achieved here and here, and on the other hand, were the places that the challenges are still very big or frustrating? Where are they?
Okay, so Israel is affected by the climate crisis or climate change by four phenomena. And maybe it would be useful just to mention them, okay, so people will know what we are facing here in Israel. One, as I've mentioned before, is a sea level rise. The second is rising temperatures. It is getting hotter and drier. The third one, there is less rain. We see this year, for instance, is a year of drought. There was very little rain in Israel, but also in the surrounding countries. And the fourth phenomenon is extreme events like floods, like fires, like sandstorms, like hailstorms, like strong winds, etc. And in all of that, in all of these areas, action has been taken, but it is not enough. Okay? And I think it has to do with many reasons. One of them is the reason that we are deeply involved in the war, and most of the attention and resources go to that. It is difficult in these times to talk about dangers or threats that will, emerge in a few years' time from now. Whereas we are faced with the war, which is still going on, with threats from Iran, the issue of the hostages, which are still held in the tunnels in Gaza, etc., etc. So there is a lot that draws the attention of policymakers and the public in Israel. Still, we know that we cannot escape preparing ourselves for the eventualities of the climate crisis and the fires that we have seen in the last 2 weeks. There were two big fires. By the way, I live also in Modi'in, and we saw the flames not far away from us, and the sky was full of smoke and ash. It was difficult to breathe, and it was a huge damage. If you drive today in the way on the highway to Jerusalem, you can see everything is burnt. This is really very sad. And I think that we have really to put more resources and planning into that. The issue, I can tell you that the government was dealing with the issue of fires and preparing, but probably the scale of the fire was so big and the wind also was so strong. In some cases, the fire advanced in a speed of 8 meters per second, which is really amazing. But I think that we have no choice, Tamara. We really have to keep thinking and asking ourselves where we are not prepared, because we are not. You cannot be completely prepared. You can cover a distance, and then as the climate crisis is evolving, you have to march again, to close this gap, because the gaps that the climate crisis is creating is keeps growing, and this is a challenge that will be with us for dozens of years, if not more than that, for decades. And preparedness for the climate crisis demands also a shift of paradigm, demands also a shift in the way how we think. We cannot, we have to know that the measures that we take to prepare ourselves are only temporary, and that in a certain time we will have to continue and to enforce them and to address other challenges that are coming upon us. So fires indeed are one of them. Floods, as we see, are another one in Israel. Heat waves, a serious problem. This year is a year of drought. Water reservoirs are half empty, if not less than that. The Kinneret is declining. Jordan River is almost dried up. And the droughts in the Middle East, at least in our area, have the tendency to continue for few consecutive years. If we are lucky, next year will be good. But most likely, we will have a series of few dry years with all the effects upon us.
Hey, thank you. So taking it from here, what do you think that are the most important thing that Israel can do? And if you could maybe relate to the attempt to draft to enact a climate bill. The parliament in Israel received a climate bill a few months ago. The government approved it. It has to go through the approval of the parliament, but the parliament has yet to approve it because there was a lot of all kind of criticism of it. So I'd like to have your input about whether what Israel needs is indeed a climate bill, or maybe Israel needs something else, maybe innovation, maybe shifting the energy from one to another. What are the most important thing that you think Israel could do?
Sure. I think climate bill is very important. Climate law is very important. It is not the only answer for the dangers of the climate crisis, but it is a very important step, and measures that can be applied within a climate bill are very important because they have a status that oblige different entities to obey and to follow them. I think that in Israel, when we are talking about climate change, we have to speak about maybe three different areas, okay? One is adaptation, of which I've already spoken before quite in details, but we can continue if you want. The other one is mitigation, which means the reduction of greenhouse gases or emissions. And the third one is climate innovation. Okay, So maybe we should say a few things about climate innovation in Israel, okay? You know, when I've started my job, my post, some 5.5 years ago, I gave lots of thought to what is Israel's contribution to this huge issue of climate crisis or environmental crisis or degradation. And there are many environmental crises today. Climate change is only one of them. There is the biological loss or biodiversity loss, desertification, water crisis, the pollution, etc. So there are many different crises that we humans are responsible for and put us in danger and the environment and the climate and the planet. And so asking that, and also after consulting with many smart people, I've come to the thought that Israel's biggest contribution is in solution, is in what we call climate innovation. And there are indeed lots of things that Israel has been doing and can do in the future and contribute to help the world mitigate emissions and prepare itself for the climate crisis. These are in fields like renewable energy, energy storage, energy efficiency, agriculture, whether it is smart agriculture for developed countries, like precise agriculture, you know, like giving each tree exactly what it needs in terms of fertilizers or water, but also drip irrigation, which is the most basic issue in agriculture today. So food security by methods, agricultural methods that were developed in Israel is essential for the world, a world which is threatened by desertification, lack of water, climate crisis, and has to boost its food production. Israel can offer lots of lessons and lots of experiences. Another thing, another area is water. I think this is most probably, if you have to associate Israel with another, something which is not war, it will be water. Water. Israel is number one in the world in terms of water usage, in saving water, in creating new water, etc. Israel is probably the only country in the world which has created a, a closed water economy, a circular water economy. You know, we desalinate lots of the water that we use in the sea, use it in the cities, then take this water, the used water, purify it, clean it, and use it again for agriculture. Actually, agriculture exists in Israel today mostly due to the usage of sewage water, which was purified and treated. And these are lessons which we can share with countries and partners around the world. And they are not, you know, sophisticated issues. I mean, everyone can desalinate, everyone can purify water, everyone can use this water for agriculture. They have only to think in the way we in Israel think. They have to adapt an innovative way of doing things. So these are only few of the things which are done here. Really, in the last COPs, we have sent Israeli startups to participate and to showcase what they do. These are really amazing things that can help almost everyone in the world. So our biggest contribution is in the field of innovation. And this is also economic opportunity, okay? Previous to the war, 1 out of 6 new startups in Israel, I repeat, 1 out of 6, almost 20%, was in climate tech, in climate innovation. It has no other similar example like that in the world. There are smart roads developed here that can charge electric vehicles. There is agriculture, which is amazing. In the desert, we grow tomatoes with saline water and actually miracles.
Yes, I hope we'll we'll see some of those innovative idea, of course, succeeding in solving some of the problems here also in Israel and of course around the world. I want to move now out to a little bit more like the politics, a little bit of the politics of climate change, and to ask you something that I've been asked many times in the United States, and that is whether in Israel, yeah, we have so many politics here is so much divided, and we have the war, and as you said, so many. Is climate a political issue like it is considered in the United States? Or are we not there? How should we manage it in order it to be not political, if it's possible?
Yes, luckily for us, climate change is not a political issue or a political divide in Israel. Everyone from left and right understand the importance of climate change. Climate denial in Israel also is very low comparing to other places in the world, in the governmental circles, and you see very serious considerations to climate issues, and you see more and more ministries having preparedness plans and putting climate considerations into their working plan. So luckily for us, it's not a political issue.
And on that aspect too, could you already feel changes that were following the changes in the United States when the new administration came in and started to put down a lot of the climate change initiative there?
No, we do not see that. I think that one of the reasons is that we feel climate issues in Israel now. I mean, the fires, the floods, the crazy weather. If some of the participants are from Israel, so they have been witnessing this tremendous change in temperatures and in weather in the last weeks in Israel. It can be an extremely hot day and the after day a cool one with some even rain and floods, and after that another heat wave. So we feel climate change in Israel already. So we know it's real. Israel is a climate hotspot. Okay, the Middle East is a climate hotspot. It means that it warms up twice as much as the global average. In the Syrian desert, in the Iraqi desert, in the Gulf states, we witness now every year temperatures that rise above 50 degrees Celsius. I do not know how much is that in Fahrenheit. Maybe someone can calculate. But 50 degrees Celsius, believe me, it's unbearable. So we already see it and feel it. And again, this year is a year of drought in the Middle East. And we see the fires, and we see the floods, and we see the heat wave. So the evidence is in front of our eyes, so we cannot escape it or deny it.
So I'm using a question that was also asked from the audience, and I will add it to what you're just saying now. The evidence are there, and we've discussed indeed adaptation. But on the mitigation side, Israel is relying still very heavily on fossil fuels. It used to be coal, it moved to natural gas. Natural gas, as we all know, is maybe cleaner than coal, but it is a very strong fossil fuels in the greenhouse gases emission perspective. And what do you think our situation is there? Why is it so difficult to Israel to start the transition to renewable energy, and what has been done or
Mhm.
um, should be done?
No, it's a very important question, and it's a very right one. Maybe I'll start by saying that Israel has almost no renewable sources of energy, okay? The country is small. We do not have thermic power. We do not have wind. The winds here are very weak, so the potential of wind of energy produced by wind is very small. The sea waves are also weak, so we cannot produce almost anything from which is energy from the sea. So we are left potentially with only one source of renewable energy, which is the sun, solar energy. Now, Israel is a very small country in size. And if we start covering, every piece of the land with solar panels, that will be a disaster for nature, for open spaces. It will compete with the land uses like for agriculture, for leisure, for habitat, etc. Saying that, saying that, we are not exempt from doing our utmost to increase the potential and the production of solar energy in Israel. And you, the SPNI, have done a research that shows us that the potential of using the urban spaces in Israel, rooftops, for making solar energy is very big. So the potential, we didn't exhaust all the potential. The potential for making more solar energy is there. Another way is to become more efficient in the way that we use energy. And I think we can do more there. I just want to say that energy consumption in Israel grows approximately 3% per year. Again, 3% per year. This is a lot. 2% is because of population growth, and 1% is because more things are getting electrified and the standard of living is getting higher. So, I mean, in a decade, we have to create almost 35, 36 more percent of energy in Israel every decade, every 10 years. It is not 10 double 3% because you have also to calculate the nationality. So it is much more. So this is a huge challenge for the authorities in Israel. I think personally and professionally that there are ways to do that. Actually, in the last years, we have been successful in slightly reducing emissions in Israel because we have moved from using coal to produce electricity to using gas. Okay, coal is the most polluting source of energy. Gas approximately emits half of the emissions compared to coal. And today in Israel, approximately 20 and something percent of the electricity or energy in Israel is coming from coal. And hopefully within 2 years, the last coal production power station will be closed and transferred into gas. But we need to see, we need to do more. We need to move into electrified vehicles, to electrify public transportation, to give more emphasis on public transportation. There are many measures that have to be taken and that will reduce emissions in Israel.
Yeah, let's do. And as you said, one of the major problem maybe is that it's not at the highest priority of the government because of so many other things that are happening, which takes the attention of the government and of the public. Looking a little bit toward the future, before we'll pick up some questions from the audience. You're now leaving this very important position. I actually remember when you started, and we were still colleagues when I was also in my previous position in the government, and would have, if I was staying there, maybe we would establish this together there. And so I really remember your first steps there. And I think you really did a very, very impressive work, definitely in establishing the infrastructure internally, which there was basically nothing. And now when you're heading to your new position, what are your plans? How do you think you're gonna continue to be involved in that matter? Do you have any plans to continue push Israel toward a more climate change policy and diplomacy?
Yes, so maybe I'll just mention that this summer I'm leaving my post. I've been appointed Israel's ambassador to Kenya. I'll be responsible for Kenya, but also for four other countries, Tanzania, Malawi, Uganda, and the Seychelles Islands. So all five countries that have to be that will be under my responsibility from Nairobi. And the reason that I have chosen this post was that I felt that I can be doing and continue my work in climate and environment. I think that professionally I have two passions in life. One is Africa, and the other one is climate and environmental issues. I was Israel's ambassador to Senegal and for several other African countries for 5 years, the head of Bureau for Africa. So I really love Africa, and in Africa you can really help people. In Africa, an Israeli diplomat is also an aid worker, is also a developer, is also someone with big heart who comes to help people in need. And by serving in Nairobi, in Kenya, I feel that I can do both, combine both passions, my love to Africa and my commitment to climate and environmental issues that I think are the most serious threat today, at least facing us. And Africa is a place that suffers a lot from the climate crisis. We see the effects in less precipitations, or on the contrary, floods, droughts, and the disappearance of glaciers in the high mountains, and more. So many things can be done there. Nairobi is also the headquarters for United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and also for another organization which is called UN Habitat. Both of them are dealing with environmental issues. So this will enable me also to do more environmental work there. when I speak to people in Africa, they always come and request Israel assistance in few areas. Number one, always is agriculture. Number two is water. Number three is energy or renewable energy. Number four is health and education. This is where they most need us, and Israel has a lot to offer, has been offering that in the last decades, and will continue to do that in the future. And I see for myself as a personal mission to continue that and really to help these countries and to help these people and share Israel's knowledge, Israel experience with them so they can have a more secure life. And, I've been reading the report and seeing the models, climate models for Africa, etc. They are very gloomy, very negative ones, and things have to be done there. And we know that climate change has no boundaries, and it will affect us everywhere, whether it's in Israel, the Middle East, Africa, the United States, and elsewhere. So I'm moving for a new position. And if there are among you partners who want to cooperate in that regard with the Israeli embassy in Nairobi, so please be in touch via Tamara and the SPNI. And I want also the SPNI to be a partner in what I will be doing. One of them will be the protection of wildlife in Africa, which is disappearing in an accelerating rate. And I think that the great work, which is done already for decades in Israel by the Society of the Protection of Nature in Israel, can be applied also in Africa, and lots of cooperation can be done between African states, Israel, SPNI, you, in the protection of nature and wildlife in Africa.
Hey, great. Thank you. Okay, I think we covered most of what we kind of planned regarding your work, and I do want to add some questions again, picking from what people ask and some additional interest of mine. So one of the issues that, of course, SPNI has been dealing with a lot is the nature protection. And some of the solutions, you also mentioned it when you're talking about solar panels, sometimes are in conflict with nature. And and people are asking, and I would ask you, how is the government, and how did you see that the government is looking at the idea of planting new trees around Israel? Well, we talked about the solar panels, um, but solutions that are coming on the account of nature.
Mhm. Sure. I'm not in the inner circles of the professionals who discuss how to rehabilitate the areas which were burned and in what kind of trees to plant them, replant them. But for sure, we need to replant trees that are resistant to fires, not more the pine trees. We should think more of native trees. And I think this is also the direction of Keren Kayemet Israel, the body responsible for forests in Israel. What I can tell you that one of my visions, or if you want my dreams, is to create in Israel an international center for the protection of forests in dry areas or semi-dry areas. Israel, surprisingly, has more than 120 years of experience in reforestation and the protection of forests in dry lands. Now, fires in dry lands, in forests in dry lands, are happening everywhere. Look at in the United States, look at the Mediterranean, in Greece, and in Portugal, in Spain. Forests in dry lands are being destroyed by fires or by heat waves or by droughts in a rate which only grows. And we need to do something collectively to save these forests. These forests are extremely important. There are over 2 billion people living in dry lands, and they surprisingly rely a lot on forests for their livelihood. And I think Israel is in the best position to become a world center for the protection, rehabilitation, and knowledge how to save forests in dry lands, which is a big challenge. And I've been in discussions with the Jewish National Fund, Kakal, in order to promote this, among other ideas and visions that I carry on.
Well, that sounds very exciting. And indeed, so on the global scale, it sounds really a wonderful vision. And you talked also about the local issues that we're facing. And I wonder, what about you mentioned a little bit the regional, and again, as you mentioned, the climate is cross boundaries. There are no borders. Um, there are so many opportunities for cooperation with the neighboring countries in terms of water and energy and pollution prevention. And but on the other hand, we all know that the political situation is always many times an obstacle. Where do we stand there? Is there any chance? Are we collaborating? Can we?
Yeah, so the understanding that regional cooperation in climate and in environmental issues is essential, is growing, is taking roots in the last years. I have really pushed hard to make this a reality and led a few initiatives and participated in meetings and still are in talks. It is a challenge. It is a challenge, first of all, that because every regional cooperation is a challenge, okay? When you involve more than one, two, three partners, this is a challenge of just normal coordination. And when we talk about regional cooperation in climate change, this is something that very scarcely exists elsewhere in the world. And in the Middle East, it is even more difficult because the Middle East suffers from many conflicts. It's not only the Israeli Arab or Israeli Palestinian today conflict. There are also conflicts between Sunni and Shiite, Turkey and other countries. So climate crisis is facing lots of difficulties, or regional cooperation is facing lots of difficulties. Still, we do think and do believe that we can create regional climate cooperation, for instance, between Israel, Greece, and Cyprus. And just recently, we had an internal meeting here with different government ministries to collect ideas. Still, what can be done? Indeed, the war has hampered few of our initiatives, but the potential is there, and we are optimistic that some of the ideas that we have collected will materialize, because working together, cooperating together, creating synergies is much better than every state facing climate challenges alone. Lots of initiatives are around economic opportunities like cooperating in green hydrogen. Before the war, we have advanced a lot in a project which is called Prosperity Green and Blue, in which the idea was that we will sell Jordan 200 million cubic meter of desalinized water. This is a lot, 200 million. This is a lot. It's approximately 15% of the of water consumption in Jordan, even more. And in exchange, we buy solar energy. Another example of climate cooperation, of energy cooperation, if you want, is the laying down of electricity cable between Israel, Cyprus, and then Europe that will enable us to buy green electricity from Europe, or in the future to be a transit station between the production of green electricity in the Gulf states and Europe. So there are many possibilities. The potential is there, and I am optimistic that we will be able to do that. Another interesting thing or idea, which also relates to the SPNI, is the creation of protected marine areas which are shared jointly by Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. Let's have nature reserve, shared nature reserves in sea or nature corridors in sea that are protected. These are things that can be done. Still, we have to put the effort, we have to believe in them and to create the plans and to find the good people who will lead them and the resources. And I'm sure some of them will materialize.
Yes, thank you. We're definitely pushing there. Nowadays, also there is a big attempt to it's been taking place in already a few months to try to make collaboration in the Red Sea to protect the coral reefs together with the four states that are on the sea. That is Egypt, Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arab. It's very difficult to do it together, and that's something that could save these special corals. Um, okay, we're almost done. I do want to ask you last question. If the people that are listening are thinking, what should they, how could they help or assist or contribute in any manner to the Israeli efforts to deal with climate change? Any ideas?
For me, okay, of course, get involved, support the SPNI. There are also some Jewish organizations that work in the field of environment, also support them and come with ideas. And as I've mentioned before, as the future Israeli ambassador in Kenya, I'll be very happy to cooperate with you if you have ideas, and we can share forces. Let's do that together, SPNI, you, the listeners, myself.
Sounds like a good idea. We will make an effort to do that. Yes, we are very thankful for this talk. As you know, part of the SPNI, and before that, doing all kind of other works in this field. It's an opportunity to say also thank you for all the effort that you put into bringing this voice, the climate crisis voice, in the government. As we all know, it's not always simple. There are so many other things that are more important. There are interests that are against that, and it's something you have to push. And I really want to wish you the best of luck in your next position. Definitely, we should cooperate and think about ways to collaborate. And Yeah, I think we're going to if I'm gonna have a look just to make sure that there's no more questions, but I think I've covered them. So unless you wanna say some goodbye, I think we're going to
What
say
I want
good.
to say, what I
Yeah.
want to say is keep up the good hope. Okay, never lose hope. Okay, we live in very challenging times, politically and otherwise, and it's very easy to get desperate. But the worst thing that can happen is that the good people will become desperate and lose faith and belief and hope. So keep your hope and design plans and initiate projects, initiate cooperations, and understand that in our world, one of the most important ways to move forward is by cooperation, is by finding good and reliable partners. So work in collaboration, create coalitions, and we can make the world a better place, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those hopeful, optimistic words. Yeah, I do share that. We have to keep on hoping and pushing and trying to do the best we can. Okay, thank you very much. That was really interesting. Best of luck. I see that people also are writing that was really fascinating and interesting. So yes, with these optimistic words and many thanks. I think we're going to wish everybody good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. And I put my contact details here. You could send there or the SPNI general address. Yeah. So thank you very much and good night.
All the best. Shalom.
Bye, Ritot.